really like the D's.
Sorry. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I really like the D's.
Welcome to Blood, Guts, and Booze.
I'm Olivia.
And I'm Kendrah. This is a paranormal and true crime podcast here to frighten you and make you question the world that we live in. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this. Listener discretion is advised, as these podcasts are not for the faint of heart, nor are they PG.
Welcome back, everybody. How's your week been, Kendrah?
It's alright.
Yeah. Snowy and cold here in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Been rocking my hoodie. Walked into Tim Hortons with it this morning, and not only did I get a lot of looks, people were asking where I got it from, and I was like, Christmas.
Everyone keeps asking at my work where I got my Hogwarts sweater from.
Ah, yes.
My mommy bought it for me for Christmas.
Oh, your mommy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, for our second regular scheduled episode of the year, I am going to be welcoming our listeners from the other side of the world this week.
Oh.
Hello, New Zealand. We see you. I saw that you guys are listening to us. That makes me so excited that we have reached the other side of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that case, I decided to look up some haunted locations and cryptids of New Zealand, and I was surprised there was a lot more than I thought there was going to be for that island. It's exciting. Yay. So I'm sure a lot of the listeners in New Zealand or Australia have heard of the case I'm going to be talking about today. So I apologize if you have heard it before, but it's going to be new for everyone over here.
It's new for me.
Yup. And I just wanted to say that I would love to go visit New Zealand someday.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
But they have Hobbiton.
Well, I know you like Lord of the Rings, but I mean, even without Lord of the... it's a gorgeous, gorgeous
I
place.
know, but I want to go to Hobbiton.
Of course.
And now I want to go visit the Kingseat Hospital of New Zealand. Kingseat Hospital resides in Karaka, New Zealand, which is just south of Auckland.
Okay.
To the locals, it is known as one of the most haunted places in New Zealand.
Excellent.
In 1929, the town of Karaka, oh my god, had 20 or so patients from a nearby mental hospital. They arrived to a random field with shovels and wheelbarrows, and they began building a psychiatric hospital.
Build your own damn hospital.
Well, yeah, they used the patients to build a hospital.
Interesting.
There was a beautiful garden.
You know what, though? It might actually help some of them that need stability.
Maybe.
Because, some of them...
It gives them something to do, keeps them occupied, keeps their mind busy.
It might have actually helped a little.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible idea. Okay.
There was also a beautiful garden filled with shrubs, flowers, trees. We all know how much I love plants, so I had to mention the beautiful gardens. Mm-hmm. The hospital began running in February 1932. The hospital started out fairly small at first and eventually grew when additions were added on. In 1939, a 2-story nurse's house was built by the Public Works and the Fletcher Construction Company. There is also a morgue in the building and an area of maximum security.
Nice.
So it's kind of got a little bit of everything.
Fair.
In the 1950s, the hospital had Dr. Henry Bennett as a senior medical officer at Kingseat Hospital.
Okay.
In 1964, name tags were administered to nurse and staff.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this was like a first-time thing for nurses anywhere or if it was just more so first-time thing for New Zealand with the name tags.
Okay.
In 1968, a handful of nurses went on strike, which led to volunteers coming in to help out with stuff around the hospital grounds.
Okay.
In 1973, the mayoress, mayoress of Auckland, Mrs. Barbara Goodman, opened a therapeutic pool for patients in the hospital.
Neat.
Yeah. In 1977, an actual pool was also installed. In the 1970s to 80s, they made it okay to accept voluntary patients.
Yep.
Most patients in the hospital suffered from mental health illnesses, addictions, and disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
New Zealand's public mental health system closed the hospital down in July 1999 due to new changes that had been made to the Mental Health Act.
Okay.
The NZPMHS, because it was a mouthful before,
Yeah.
wanted patients to transition from hospital care to a more rehabilitation/community care.
Yeah.
Kind of like what I used to do when I was a PSW,
Okay.
right? Probably more stuff like that. Mm-hmm. The hospital was sold during the closure. There have been some patient files reopened for investigation on neglect and abuse that caused death to some patients. The hospital was rumored to have held 800 patients, which was well more than it should have held.
Mm-hmm.
After the closure, there were rumors of Kingseat becoming a potential prison location.
Mm.
Now, I'm going to give a little bit of a trigger warning in here because there's a little bit of child abuse that gets mentioned
Gross.
in a minute. So, yeah. Yeah, not fun.
How friggin' young were the patients in here?
You'll find out in a second.
Okay.
Many patients inside of the hospital were victims of abuse. Over 200 ex-patients have come forward saying that in the 60s and 70s they were victims of all kinds of abuse, most ranging from the ages 8 to 16 at the time.
Oh.
Like, they would have beatings, wrongful use of electroshock therapy.
Therapy?
Yep.
Wow.
So, they... Oh, hello.
It bothers me.
So, patients would endure beatings, wrongful use of electroshock therapy, sexual assault, and misusing drugs as a form of punishment.
Yeah.
One of the most well-known is of an 11-year-old boy named Clemens Matthew.
Okay.
His death certificate states that he passed away from pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
In 2004, 36 years after his death, police decided to reopen his case as a witness had come forward.
Oh, no.
Stephen Lindsay was a patient and a friend of Clements. He was 14 at the time of Clements' passing. He had witnessed a male nurse throwing Clements to the ground and brutally kicking him in the back. He had heard what sounded like a branch snapping and knew Clements' back was broken right away.
Oh, no.
All this was over a stolen piece of bread.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. He ended up passing away from, his broken back and all that. The Kingseat is also home to mysterious disappearances. In 1967, two 13-year-old boys, Bruce Mitchell and Kelly Hayden, disappeared from Kingseat at different times.
Interesting.
They did have a few things in common. Both were extremely troubled. And both of them had wandered off the property towards Manukak. Oh my god. Manuk? Ew? Is that how you would say that? Manukiu? Manukiu?
Manukau.
Manukau?
Manukau.
Manukau Harbor. And police had presumed both of them dead by drowning. Neither body was found in both incidents. The only evidence that was left was in Mitchell's case. There were footprints leading to the water that were possibly his.
Okay.
And a shoe was found near a paddock during the investigation for Kelly Hayden.
Interesting.
Only forms of evidence that they had.
Spooky.
Bruce Mitchell's siblings believe the buttermilk is super sour in the disappearance/death of their brother.
Well, clearly.
Every visit with Bruce that they had, they noticed bruises all over his body. They always were suspicious of abuse, but the hospital reassured them he had just walked into a door every single fucking time.
I fell down the stairs.
Like, he's just clumsy as fuck. He just keeps walking into things. Like,
No one's that fucking clumsy.
right? If they are, check them for vertigo. God fucking damn.
Yeah. Hey. Your cat's doing the thing where they sleep like this.
Oh, I know.
I like when cats do that. When they just...
And because of this, the whole disappearance just doesn't sit well with them. The New Zealand Herald claims that there was no hearing for Bruce Mitchell's death, which means there is technically no death certificate for him.
Oh.
He's just missing.
Okay.
Bruce Mitchell's sister, Judy Sorick, keeps asking police why they have not continued investigating her brother's disappearance, as she states that he was scared and afraid every time that they would have to leave the hospital.
Then take him out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
And her and her family just want answers.
Well, I mean, like, seriously, if that's the case, then take your child out of the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is her sibling. So they might not have had any control over that. I don't know.
But her parents,
Yeah.
their parents could have been like, hey, we don't trust this here. We're moving him or taking him out or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's also the 60s, right?
I don't
So,
know.
So not only have there been multiple patient deaths in these walls, but it was a common occurrence for nurses to end their lives.
Oh, what the fuck?
There have been reports of apparitions haunting the building since 2011, with over 100 eyewitness reports. Ghosts have been seen walking down the hallways, and some visitors have experienced other side effects like uneasiness, anxiety, being scared, disorientated, heaviness, nausea, dizziness, and negative energies.
Okay.
The gray nurse took his life in the hospital due to high stress and is a commonly seen spirit that hangs out in the nurses' quarters. When investigators head into Kingseat, a prime location for activity is the nurses' quarter area.
Mm-hmm.
So when I said a lot of nurses had ended their lives, it was because they were being overworked, they were being pushed, you know, they had more patients than they could take care of.
Kind of like right now in Ontario's nurses.
Or just everywhere right now. Everywhere's struggling with having that help.
I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to have opinions on political things on the podcast.
Who said that? Was it me?
Me.
Oh.
That way we don't lose any listeners. I'm gonna just be quiet right now.
So Haunted Auckland is a YouTube channel that has visited Kingseat Hospital multiple times. They have a video on their channel where they are communicating with a spirit named Alexis Jackson, who is still taking care of patients in the afterlife.
Okay.
Kind of sweet. Their EMF detectors were constantly going off. They had witnessed a football floating off the ground. They said about a meter, I believe, is what they had said in the video.
Okay.
They felt numerous cold spots. They felt as if an energy was moving around with them, but it did not feel natural at all. While using the spirit box, they caught the name Stephen.
Why is that such a common name?
Not just that, but the guy I mentioned before who was the witness, his name was Stephen.
Oh.
Stephen Lindsay.
Interesting. But what was it? Goat Bridge or something?
It also said Steve.
Steve, that's, see? I'm remembering your cases. Why are these letters so much bigger than everything else?
Because I had to, it's a quote, I had to copy and paste it because I didn't feel like typing it all. So Haunted Auckland's team found a diary from an old staff member that was found inside of the hospital.
Ooh, neat.
It told of how the conditions in Kingseat were absolutely terrible for patients. The diary reads, quote, "There was never enough hands to help with the extremely handicapped to eat, no medications to avoid being scratched or attacked, nurses or kitchen or laundry staff alike. If having to go past the residents to clean up or stop them attacking each other," the diary reads, "we could use the hours between meals just to clean up the dining rooms. I cried with relief to learn that this hospital has closed." End quote.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I know the quote's a little confusing, but I get it when you're writing a diary who uses proper grammar, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it must have been, like, they must have been that stressed out. I understand why some of the staff in there had taken their lives.
Yeah.
If they were that stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
If this staff member was cried with relief when the hospital had closed, like, it had to have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
Another team had come into the hospital. One of the investigators put their hand on the edge of a bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
She had become kind of dizzy and nauseous, so for some reason she sat in the bathtub and closed her eyes as she knew something bad had kind of happened in there. She had a weird feeling. A woman came to her mind, and this woman had been pushed underwater. She saw a woman's body flailing, trying to save herself, but a hand was continuing to push her into the water, drowning her.
Yeah.
And so she envisioned the death that had happened in the bathtub.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know if this investigator is a medium or a little sensitive.
Clairvoyant.
Yeah, clairvoyant. The TV show Ghost Hunt, Season 1, Episode 2, shows an episode with an unplugged dental chair turning on by its own.
Jeez.
The chair, like the sink on a dental chair, right? Chair's unplugged. There's no pipes, nothing hooked up to it. And it was literally going like, as if it was gurgling the water down the drain.
Weird.
It literally
Freaky.
made that gurgling noise. That bubbly.
That's
yeah.
freaky.
And
Makes you terrified of the dentist.
they have that in the clip. You can see the clip on YouTube.
Okay.
And all links will also be in the blog for anyone who does want to see the YouTube videos for themselves.
Excellent.
Because there was a couple that I watched for this where they showed the communication from Haunted Auckland, and then I saw or heard the noise while they were investigating the chair in that episode. So now I just got some fun facts before I wrap it up. In 2005, multiple attractions came to the hospital, so they decided to reuse the space.
Okay.
They put a Scream Park called Spookers in there, and it was #1 in the Southern Hemisphere.
Ooh.
Also said to be one of the only haunted attractions in Australia, New Zealand area.
Interesting.
Staff have been scared a lot by cold spots and objects being manipulated to move or turn on by themselves.
Can you please cover, like, a haunted fucking amusement park? That would
Okay.
be awesome.
There's one in the States I can do.
I was gonna say, like, is that a thing? I feel like there's one in...
Gates of Hell in the States. It's like a haunted, it's like a park like this, a haunted house.
Mm-hmm. But I feel
You
like
up there?
there's also one in, like, Korea, I want to say. I feel like there's one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know the one in the States has some dark history, so.
I feel like Korea.
I'll
is
check
the
it
one.
out. And in 2013, it was even an asylum paintball in laser tag combat.
Interesting.
Which is
Haunted
pretty cool.
laser tag. Hasn't there always already been somewhere that you covered that did, like, a haunted laser tag thing? Oh, no. We, in Ontario, have a haunted laser tag place.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I want to say. I want to say that one of the places around Ontario has been turned into a laser tag, but it's haunted. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
I feel like it was on the list of places for us to go.
Oh, was it St. Thomas? London.
It's near Milton, I want to say. On the way to Toronto from here.
Maybe the old Milton prison or something.
It's like you're driving on the highway, and I
And-
want to say it's near Milton, but you can see it while you're on the 401.
It's got the fence around it?
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you're talking
I
about.
want to say that it's that place, and it's haunted.
Okay. We'll have
Yeah.
to check it out.
Yeah.
Kingseat Hospital was named its hospital after Kingseat Hospital of Aberdeenshire of Scotland by Dr. Gray, who was Dr. General of the Mental Health Division of the Auckland Health Board. That was a mouthful. Boop, boop. The mental health wing at Waikato Hospital in Hamilton, New Zealand, was named after Dr. Henry Bennett, who I had mentioned earlier.
Ooh.
In 1982, the hospital celebrated its 50th anniversary.
Yongmaland. That's the place in
Yongmaland.
Korea. In Seoul. I don't know if it's haunted, but it's abandoned. Oh, apparently it's open again.
A lot of accounts that I read seem to be just stuff of residual hauntings. They don't seem to be anything dangerous.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like it's a super... I don't feel like a lot of dark energies. I just feel like a lot of residual energies from patients that have passed, staff that has passed. And it could also be patients or staff that don't know that they have passed, right? And they're just hanging around
Can't
from,
move on.
And I mean, some people in there clearly have experienced some terrible deaths, which could have also led them to be stuck in the hospital. I do feel like there's a lot of spirits here, but I don't...
And also, isn't it a thing too, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still learning about spirits.
Yeah.
And most of my knowledge comes from the TV show Supernatural. But, isn't it also a thing where if your death is unsolved, that you can not be able to move on?
Well, if you're restless, if you didn't have a peaceful death, you might not be able to pass on. That's how I look at it.
Okay.
So,
yes, I'm right, but no, kind of thing?
yeah,
okay.
yeah. You're on the right track.
Okay. I was murdered, you murdered me, and no one ever figured out that you murdered me.
You could stay
I
around.
could haunt
yeah.
and be like, bruh, figure it out. Olivia did it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
kind of like that. I think it's stuff like that. But if any of our listeners from New Zealand have been there, message us. Let us know your experiences. Send us pictures.
Yeah, man.
Oh my goodness. Like, I want to hear your experiences there, no matter how crazy they are. And if they are a lot darker than I anticipated, then let us know. Yeah. So, because then we can read it as a listener story if you want. Like, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's my case.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well...
What do you have for us?
This week, I will be traveling back to one of the biggest crime states, Texas.
Oh, the biggest state.
Yeah, to cover another crazy case of who really did it.
Texas toast is so good.
Yes, it is. So this case still has people questioning if the wrong woman is in prison.
Oh.
Yeah, today I'm going to talk about Darlier Routier. Have you heard of her?
No.
Excellent. Okay. So 26-year-old Darlie was married to Darren Routier.
You call her Router. We'll just call her Router. Darlene Router.
Okay. They had
like a Wi-Fi router.
Well, I don't really have to say her last name much, so.
Exactly.
Routier. They had 3 sons, 6-year-old Devin, 5-year-old Damon, and 7-month-old Drake. They really like the letter D for names, I guess. After the birth of Drake, though, Darlie began to suffer from postpartum depression.
That's not good.
No. On June 6th, 1996, Darlie was asleep on the couch in the living room while Devin and Damon were asleep on the floor beside her. Darren and Drake were asleep upstairs. Darlie later woke up to an unknown person standing over top of her. She screamed for Darren, and the unknown person fled their home. He dropped a knife on his way out. This is when Darlie realized that she and her sons had been attacked. She called 911. Darren came downstairs and immediately noticed that the boys had been badly stabbed. He began CPR while Darlie stood by. When paramedics arrived, Devin was dead. He had been stabbed twice in the chest with such force that the knife went almost all the way through his body.
Oh my God.
Damon was stabbed almost half a dozen times in the back and died on his way to the hospital. Darlie was treated for cuts, one that included an almost fatal gash on her throat that was only 2 millimeters away from her carotid artery.
Holy
and
shit.
She survived. Shortly after her surgery, she was questioned by detectives. She claimed that she and the boys had fallen asleep watching TV. She woke up to Damon crying, "Mommy, Mommy," and saw a man moving through the kitchen. When she approached him, he ran away and dropped the knife. She picked it up and chased him out of the home through the garage before realizing that she and her sons were hurt.
I mean, adrenaline rush, it could be possible.
Now, her story's already changed.
Yeah, I was going to say, it has changed.
Her story changes 3 or 4 times throughout this.
Okay.
So it's a little hard to follow, but we'll figure it out.
So all 3 of them have been stabbed. 2 dead. And then she chased Buddy out. Because the first time he was standing over her. This time she chased him.
And this time her child woke her up. It wasn't just that she woke up.
Yeah. Okay.
But she slept through all 3 of them being stabbed. Both times. That stays. So, police discovered that there was a cut screen in the garage window, but the dust on the windowsill was undisturbed. There were also 0 signs of blood in the garage. The mulch between the garage and the backyard gate was also undisturbed, but there was an unknown fingerprint found on the windowsill that didn't belong to anyone in the family.
Okay.
A sock was also discovered 75 yards away from the home. It had blood on it, and lab tests revealed that the blood belonged to both Damon and Devin.
Okay.
Have you heard of this one yet?
No, but I mean...
That's the part where you probably would have been like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't heard of this. But that does kind of make her stuff more... From this, with already hearing that a sock was 75 yards away with blood on it, at the moment, seems pretty on her side at the moment.
Yes. So Darlie was treated as a suspect right from the beginning.
Well, yeah.
They found it very strange that she could stay asleep during the entire attack.
Well, I was about to say, it'd be pretty hard to stay asleep with being stabbed and having your neck sliced.
So, quick pause. Does this remind you of another case at all? So
There's
far?
a few.
Yeah. John Bonet, Madeline McCann.
Mm-hmm.
Suspicious child being killed, and parents, right away, we think it's you. So anyways, Darlie was released 2 days later from the hospital.
Okay.
8 days after the murders, Darlie and her other family members were caught by newscasters at the boys' graves.
Mm-hmm.
It was Devon's 7th birthday, and they had wanted to celebrate it.
Oh.
The video showed Darlie smiling, laughing, and spraying silly string on the graves while singing Happy Birthday. It painted her in a very, very bad light. So family members stated that the news didn't bother showing an earlier video where the family had a sadder ceremony to honor the children. They only showed the video that made Darlie look bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, the second you said spraying silly, like, I could understand maybe smiling and laughing. You do have to learn to, grow from stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if somebody says something to you, you can, even if you're sad, you can still laugh and smile.
Mm-hmm.
Spraying the silly string, that's when my face and my mind was like, ew, no.
So is your opinion slowly changing? So Darlie...
Very, up and down, up and
Yes.
down, up and down.
That's one of those cases. So Darlie did later comment on the video saying, quote, "He wanted to be 7. I did the only thing I knew to do to honor him and give him all of his wishes because he wasn't here anymore. But how do you know what you're going to do when you lose 2 children? How do you know how you're going to act?"
Well, that's
Fair.
basically what I just said, too. Like, you can't... And everybody goes through trauma differently.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Some people...
And grief.
Some people, go about it with humor and pushing it away. Other people embrace it. Other people just fully embrace it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So 4 days after the birthday celebration, Darlie was arrested and charged with capital murder.
Oh, shit.
She was also placed on suicide watch. It was believed that Darlie had murdered her sons to gain insurance money. Investigators believed that she had staged the scene, including the sock found in the alleyway.
Possible.
There was also a blonde hair found in the cut screen in the garage, and Darlie was blonde. But it was later determined that the hair was actually from one of the police officers.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Darlie's story just didn't seem to make sense, though.
Mm-hmm.
There was no evidence that the, quote, intruder had entered or left through the garage, let alone the home in general.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was missing, including jewelry that was sitting on the kitchen counter. So that ruled out robbery as motive. Darlie had apparently slept through not only her 2 sons being murdered beside her, but through being cut herself. And lastly, the knife that was used from the family's own kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
The knife that was used was from the family's own kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So next came the blood evidence. The pattern of blood in the kitchen seemed to come from someone who had been standing still, not someone who had been running after an assailant.
Mm-hmm.
It almost seemed like she had been standing in one place. Oh, never mind. That's right there. The blood on her nightgown was also inconsistent. The blood on the back of her shoulder was consistent with her being the one holding the knife and stabbing the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also punctures in her nightgown that didn't match any of her injuries. And lastly, police found evidence of large amounts of blood in the kitchen sink, and it suggested that she had stood over the sink while she cut her arm and throat.
Possible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if she had a blackout moment, if she or a personality switch kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Good theories.
Postpartum works in crazy ways. I have a lot of friends with kids. Postpartum has affected them all completely differently. It's crazy.
I had it. It was really bad.
Well, I know I know postpartum can make you just, like, be like, fuck everything. And you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how it works.
So, back to the knives. There was also a bread knife found in the knife block that had trace evidence of fiberglass rods that matched the fiberglass rods of the window screen that was cut in the garage.
Okay.
Seems odd that the intruder would use a knife from the family's home to enter the home and then put it back. Just saying. Darlie's trial began on January 6, 1997 in Kerrville, Texas. Prosecution argued that Darlie had murdered her sons because of her family's financial difficulties, and both boys had a life insurance policy on them. They also showed the video of the silly string and argued that the crime scene had been staged by Darlie. The defense argued that the life insurance on the children only equaled $10,000, which didn't even cover the funeral costs. And even if she wanted more money, there was an $80,000 life insurance policy on her husband, who was left unharmed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you were gonna do it, go big or go home, man. Like,
yeah, so the funeral cost $18,000, and she only got $10,000 from the boys. So she still had to pay out $8,000. But if she had killed hubby, you know.
She would have been pretty comfortable.
Mm-hmm. One crucial argument that the defense had was the bloody sock.
Mm-hmm.
Prosecutors argued that it was planted by Darlie, but the medical examiner testified that Damon would have only had about 8 minutes to survive after his injuries.
Mm-hmm.
He was alive when paramedics arrived, and Darlie was on the phone with 911 for about 6 minutes.
Oh, wow.
8 minutes was simply not enough time to stage the scene, stab and cut herself, and take the sock that was far away from her house, while making sure to get back before the paramedics arrived, all while on the phone with 911 and her husband being there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough time, because it's 75 yards away in an alley.
Yeah.
On February 1st, though, Darlie was convicted of murdering Damon. On February 4th, she was sentenced to death by lethal injection.
Oh, shit.
In 2001, Darlie appealed her conviction, but it was denied in 2003. And in June 2008, Darlie was granted the right to new DNA testing. But on January 29th, 2014, a request was granted for further DNA tests on the fingerprint, sock, and her nightshirt. In 2018, a third round of DNA testing was ordered, and it has not been done yet.
Oh, wow.
There's honestly so many more twists to this case if you guys want to do like a super deep dive.
Yeah.
I getting a little personal here. I had a family death, so I was kind of rushed through this case. I was dealing with a lot, and it got the best of me. So
it's still good.
Not
it's
my
still
most
good,
detailed. Yeah. I do have a little bit of trivia though. So Darlie Lynn Peck Routier was born January 4th, 1970. She just turned 51.
Okay.
Paramedics arrived within 3 minutes of the 911 call, which shortens her time to get everything anyways.
Also, side note, she's also a Capricorn. You keep covering Capricorns.
Whoops. Darlie was known to wake up from her baby rolling over in his crib, which is why she was preferring to sleep on the couch right now, yet slept through her sons being stabbed. In June 2011, Darren filed for divorce from Darlie.
Understandable.
He claimed that the decision was mutual and, quote, very difficult, and that he still believed that she was innocent.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It only took the jury 10 hours to convict her. Luminol showed that the blood had been cleaned up on the floor by the kitchen sink. Darlie claimed that she knew the identity of the intruder, then later claimed she never remembered saying that. There are 4 books about this case.
Oh, shit.
The case was featured on an episode of 48 Hours in 2001 and an episode of Unsolved Mysteries in 2001.
Okay.
Darlie has a lot of supporters who think she is innocent and was wrongfully convicted. The Innocence Project got involved in Darlie's case on April 22nd, 2021.
Oh, recently.
And I have a quote. So right after the deaths from prison, Darlie said, I did not kill my children. That's ridiculous. All of a sudden I woke up, stabbed my kids, and tried to slit my own head off? Come on. And lastly, immediately following John Benet Ramsey's murder, her father, John Ramsey, obtained legal counsel. We remember this. When asked why, he said, quote, because of what happened to that woman in Texas.
Oh, he didn't want them to, like, retrial him and get the same thing?
So, Olivia and listeners, did Darlie do it?
Well, again, I'm still very up and down, because, like I said, a lot of things are working not in her favor, but that sock is the only thing really keeping it in her favor right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious to know if maybe the sock was planted before everything happened.
That's what I was thinking, is that she maybe just
she
did just enough of a cut on the other son, got a little bit of blood.
Or, like, maybe let him play with something that he shouldn't have, cut himself and was like, oh no, let me help you clean it up, dabbed a little bit on a sock.
But it was fresh blood.
True.
That's the thing.
That's the downfall. Interesting.
I know. Another weird theory is that somehow Darren ran with it while she was attacking them.
I'm also surprised he didn't wake up during everything.
Yeah.
If like, somebody was stabbing people, you'd think you would at least hear it. Like, same with her. I mean, there's the possibility it could have been like, but you would still hear some struggle. Mm-hmm. Right? And if
she wakes up to her baby rolling in his crib, you can't tell me that she slept through that.
Mm-hmm. But then it kind of goes, I'm kind of leaning also back to what I had said earlier. What if she had a personality switch? What if she was sleeping one night and all of a sudden it was just like...
One other thing that I read too, that I didn't add, was in May that year, she had actually written in her diary that she was debating on killing herself. So she was suffering some sort of mental not okayness. And
so that could be maybe a possible direction then.
But she still maintains her innocence. I did not do it. Somebody came into my home and did this.
And I mean, if you're going through shock, I can understand maybe your story changing. But like, I don't know. It's really hard to say, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, part of me wants to say she's innocent, but at the same time, I get where the jury's coming from. How did you sleep through all of this?
Yeah, but she had no actual history of mental illness like Susan Smith did.
Yeah.
Or Andrea Yates. She's another killer mommy who had a mental health...
And Downs that you covered as well. What she meant?
I don't remember, but I know that Susan Smith had a very big... Diane Downs. They both had a lot of problems. And Andrea Yates was the same way. She's another killer mommy. I figured I would cover another... I figured that I would cover another killer mommy because I haven't in a while. And I'm trying to go back now through cases types that I haven't done.
Topics, yeah.
Yes, so I traveled with a torture, and now I'm doing a killer mommy, and we'll see what comes next. If I go back to a serial killer or a cult or maybe a killer kid or, you know.
Do a heist. You haven't done a heist in a while.
I don't think I've done a heist at all.
I don't know. Was D.B. Cooper kind of a heist?
Ah, yes, thank you. But something I haven't done yet, I will tell her later, but not you guys. You try and figure out some sort of case that I haven't done yet, a type, and then let me know one that I haven't done, and I will try my best to find the best one. I have one in my head that I haven't done yet.
But yeah. But yeah, so I think I'm kind of going with maybe like a different personality switch thing.
And the question is, if that happened, is she innocent or is she guilty? If you really don't know that you did it, can you be convicted? It's like that one case in the States where the guy was sleepwalking and murdered somebody and literally didn't even know he was doing it. Do you get convicted? What happens?
I mean,
it's
I
a
feel
very
like
difficult
you.
phase.
I feel like you should, because you're
You're
physically
subconscious.
there.
And
You're
you're
physically
subconscious to
there.
it.
Yeah. Whether you can remember it, if you went and, like that guy, right, sleptwalk and murdered somebody, and somebody saw you do it, like, I mean...
Yeah. So, I like doing these cases, though, of the we don't really 100% know the answer, because I like hearing your theories on stuff. And I like when you have cases like that where I can give theories, because I feel like that's kind of what makes us a little different for you guys, is that you get to hear our weird theories of stuff, especially when I go on weird tangents of the black-eyed children being Chernobyl people. But, I'm never gonna get over that. Yeah. I went on a weird tangent the other day in our group chat with the girls from Horror vs. Reality. And I was wondering, if you consent to being eaten by another human,
is that veganism?
yeah, can you still be a vegan? Because technically, like vegans, the whole purpose is you don't eat them because they can't consent to it. But, Olivia, may I eat your toe?
If I had said, I'm gonna say no, but if I had said yes, I'd be like, I'd huck my stinky toe up here.
Is that still okay?
Let
Am
you
I
take
still
a
a vegan?
nibble.
Am I still participating because she consented to me eating her toe?
Yes.
Your
when
balance is going to be all fucked up by the way now.
when we release this episode, we'll do an Instagram poll for everybody and a Twitter poll to see, and even a Facebook one. We'll do one on all social media. We want to see what everybody thinks. Is it veganism if you consent to eat
Is it vegan friendly?
Yeah, to eat in long pig and cannibalism acts.
Yes.
We were also talking about hufu, which is like a human substitute. Well, it's not a human. Yeah, well, not a human substitute. It's a vegan substitute for human meat.
Yeah.
And we were curious, who the fuck came up with that, and how the fuck do you know
Dahmer.
how accurate the taste is?
Dahmer
Yeah,
lovers.
I was eating Five Guys before it was a restaurant.
On that note, goodbye, friends.
Bye!
See you next week.
Special thanks to Dylan Sears for the theme song and Sally Gunter for the cover art. Support us on Patreon and like, share, rate, and subscribe to us on all of our social media pages and your podcast streaming service. Do you have any personal stories or suggestions for the show? Email us at bloodgutsandbooze@gmail.com.